Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Welcome to a webinar which is all about how to use learning paths in TalentLMS. We have been hearing about learning paths for a long time in instructional design and in training delivery, and everybody's wondering, how can I do it? And how can I make it in a way that my learners will be able to identify and even choose, if they can, their own learning paths? So this is what we're here for today, and we'll spend this time not only discussing about what they are and how to use them, but of course showing you as well how this can be made easy with TalentLMS. So get comfortable and let's get started. I'm Theo. I'm part of the customer enablement team, and I'm here to host the session alongside with Danny, our expert from account management.
Hello, everybody, from me as well. As Theo said, I'm Danny. I'm part of the account management team here at TalentLMS. Part of my role involves speaking to a lot of customers of TalentLMS online and getting their feedback. Normally, we talk about things like best practices and portal usage. We also look at how we can maximize the portal and really get the best out of our training that we have there as well. And I'm really excited for today's session as well. As Theo said, we're going to be talking about establishing different learning pathways in TalentLMS. And there are a lot of interesting topics and a lot of practical strategies that we're going to show you as well. So really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Danny. And definitely Danny will share his expertise with us and of course his customer stories as well. And if anybody in the audience already works with Danny on their account, just say hi in the Q&A section. Now, just before we begin, just a few things. First of all, the webinar is recorded, so you will receive the recording once the session is over. And of course, sharing is caring here, so feel free to share the recording with anybody who would like to work with learning paths or anybody in your organization that is creating courses and helping you out with training delivery. They will love these simple tricks that we will show today. And of course, we're also here to answer your questions. So in the meeting controls, if you like, take a moment to locate the Q&A button. The Q&A button will get your questions straight to us, and we have all of the advice in the world to give you if you would like. But at the same time as well, we have Irene behind the scenes. Irene is one of our members in the team, and she will also help on the chat with different questions. So we'll do our best to answer your questions live, and definitely me, Danny, and Irene will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. They don't have to be just for learning paths. They can be for anything TalentLMS related that you want. Now, what we have in plan today, Learning Paths is just the beginning. We'll see how you can create and organize multiple learning paths in TalentLMS, and of course, multiple custom learning paths. We'll see how you can empower your learners to take control of the learning and choose their own learning paths. And of course, we'll see how you can combine learning paths with gamification and other features as well. That's sometimes we tend to overlook because we think that a certain feature only does one job, but we are here to combine learning paths with other features and of course see how you can gamify this experience as well. Finally, I've said it before, we are here for questions. So use the Q&A button as you need and send us your questions. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do today is ask you to answer a question yourselves. So I'm going to send out a poll here. I hope you can see it on screen. And this is where we need your participation. So what is a learning path for you? What do you think it is? Is it a set sequence of courses? Is it a training method to deliver certain skills? Or is it role-based training where learners can make choices and actually the entire learning process becomes a choice? There is quite an avid participation here, Danny. Can you see the lines moving right there? I think we cannot. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, I can see them. I can see them moving. A lot of interesting feedback from the audience that I can see. Really, when we think about learning pathways, and maybe many of you at home have maybe thought about this already by looking at the answers, I think all three of these answers could be correct for a learning pathway. So if you've selected one of them only, that's fine. But I think really, if you want to sum up a learning path, we can see them now. So actually, most of you went with a set sequence of courses. correct. A training method to develop certain skills, also correct. And role-based training where learners make choices. So I would say all three of these really are a combination that add to a learning path. So here we can see in front of us a definition of a learning path. So a structured sequence of learning activities that guide employees to develop skills and competencies they need for roles and levels. And depending on your role or level, you may need to undertake a number of different learning pathways. For example, a sales learning path, a marketing learning path, for example. And if we think about how dynamic the workplace is in 2023, I think you'll find as well with many of your users that they may need to undertake a number of different courses to build their skills in different levels. So what we have essentially here is a good opportunity to establish learning paths. And when you also factor in things like soft skills as well, that also gives us another opportunity there as well. So when it comes to a learning pathway, it is something really that we can use to help our learners to develop skills in a number of different areas. And I think we actually have another poll coming in now, because I think that kind of leads us on to the next kind of logical question here, which is why do we actually offer different learning paths? What could be the benefits of offering different learning paths to our users? And again, we have another poll for you as well, so please feel free to participate at home.
And I can see already that there is quite a passionate participation here. I can see the lines with the percentages battling with each other. But I think that there is quite two prominent answers here. So most people tend to go for learning paths being offered to safeguard correct order of courses. And then the second most popular, I'm going to just end the poll now because I see that the line stopped. So first one is to safeguard correct order of courses, and then to allow learners to choose their courses, and then to encourage micro learning. So is it the case of all the above again, Danny? What do you think?
Yeah, so it may come as a little surprise to you at home that, again, all three of them really could be very valid answers to this question. Just like one learning path doesn't have to be completely linear, our answers to this question don't have to be completely linear as well. There can be many different benefits to offering different learning paths. So let's sort of jump in here a little bit and have a look at some of the key benefits that we can find. So for example, I'd say at the top of the list here is when we offer different learning paths to our users, essentially what we're doing here is we're giving them a choice in their learning. It's all about choice-based learning. Now, if you ever remember a time where you decided to start a new hobby, for example, or take that cooking course that you always wanted to take, something that you really were passionate about and interested in learning. Try and think about how you felt when you were taking those courses or doing those tasks or learning those new things. I'm sure you were very motivated, very interested, passionate. You wanted to keep going. And this is essentially what we're trying to do here as well. It's the same kind of thing. When you offer choice in learning, it does lead to higher engagement. It does lead to higher retention as well, as a lot of things we're learning, we're choosing to learn them in some way. And in this way, it can also be very empowering for our learners as well. If our learners have a choice or some kind of choice in their learning, this can make them more active participants in the learning process. So it's all about giving learners choices, helping empower learners to make active decisions in their learning as well. So this is perhaps some of the key things that we can attribute to why we offer different learning paths and how they can be beneficial. Something else we can also take into account, and this is something that I have experienced a lot with my customers as well, and perhaps this is something that you have experienced. When you have in Talent LMS a large number of courses available for learners, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming for these learners, and they may feel in some way a bit bombarded by the amount of courses they have. So by offering different structured learning so different chains of courses together, this can help to maybe provide a more clear path for our learners rather than just bombarding them all at once with courses. It's like the old saying goes, if we know where we're going to get there faster. And by establishing these learning pathways, we can really help to help our learners see where they're going to be going with their training as well. And as we said in the poll as well, a great way of using learning paths, a great benefit here, is to ensure that courses are taken in the correct order. So to encourage learners to follow a set way of doing the courses to help them build their knowledge and skills simultaneously. Something else I might also add as well to the very end is that when it comes to things like micro-learning, I mentioned soft skills a few moments ago. This can be a great way to incorporate micro-learning and soft skills together. When we talk about micro-learning, we're talking about very short bursts of learning. So 5 minutes, maybe a video and a quiz, for example. These can be great ways to engage your learners in these short bursts of learning through maybe different learning paths constructed through micro-learning units, for example. For those of you who know Talent LMS and use it a lot, you perhaps have come across Talent Library before. This could be a great way to engage learners in micro-learning, as you have a number of ready-made courses already there for your learners, video content that you can quite readily incorporate into your learning paths. So there you can see there's a number of benefits there to using different learning pathways for engagement, retention, and giving that extra variety to your courses. And Talent LMS can help you with that flexibility as well.
That's right. And in fact, these are all good reasons for using learning paths. And as you said, Talent Library on top of that is the definition of micro-learning. And we can use it later in our presentation as an example as well, if more people want to know about Talent Library. And one of the things that I have been really suffering throughout, years in different positions, different careers, is that the learning that I used to get was so populated with content, so populated with courses. And then, many people are expected to take half a day off to do the training. Well, with micro learning and with learning paths, you can have courses that last from 5 to 10 minutes. And you can, of course, maybe not do them during your lunch break. But if you have 2 customer calls and you have 30 minutes in between, of course, you can go make a coffee, and then you can take 5 minutes out of the 30 minutes gap to just do a course and then move on with the rest of your day. So it's bite-sized content that fits your schedule with the order and the option of a learning path as well, rather than having a full day of training and then 200 emails the next day to deal with, right?
Absolutely.
So let's see what we can use learning paths with. I think first comes with courses, right? It's quite obvious, but why do you think that's, we have created this simple but quite informative path?
So I think really, and this is something that again comes from talking to customers quite often, trying to sort of build these learning pathways. I always find, and with my customers as well, that starting this process can be some of the most difficult steps here. How do I map out my learning pathways? How do I apply this to my courses? How do I structure and sequence my courses in such a way that it's going to create very clear, visible learning pathways for my learners to get from A to B in their training, for example. So one of the first things really when it comes to learning pathways on a course level would be in the steps that you can see in front of you. So first of all, to think about perhaps mapping out what would be your desired pathway for the courses that you have. So you have 100 courses. As we've said already, we don't want to bombard learners. We want to create perhaps more clearly defined learning pathways for the learners to follow. So how would you go about mapping these out? Would it be a linear pathway, or would you perhaps give learners the opportunity to take different routes, or maybe through achieving completion in different courses, unlock the next courses, for example. So think about how you would map out your courses, how users would go from one course to another. And the second step really, and this is something you could use, which could really help with organization. This is another big thing that I hear from customers as well. How can I sort of organize my courses in sort of a more logical way? You could also use things like course codes, for example, to kind of create and solidify these pathways and make it more obvious for your learners about what path they're following and how they're going along in their progress. And I think Theo now has some very practical strategies to actually help bring this to life as well.
Yes, exactly. And first of all, what you said, Danny, brainstorming how you will design that learning path definitely is the number one priority before you even jump into the portal. So let's say that we've done this. And in this case, I'm going to bring my Talent LMS forward. And as you see, I hope everybody can see the portal here and they can recognize a familiar view. This is the administrator's dashboard in Talent LMS. Of course, when it comes to learning paths, this is something that needs to be done by the instructor because the learning path settings within a course are in the instructor's view. However, it doesn't matter whether you are an administrator or an instructor. If you are the one designing the learning path, definitely these are the steps that you need to go. And especially as an administrator, you can also be an instructor in Talent LMS, so no barriers there. So let's take this opportunity to switch here from an admin to an instructor. So we have an example here, and that's done with Talent Library courses out of coincidence. We have project management methodologies, part one. You can see part one being written on the image of the course. And then you have the second one, which is part two. So that is part one to the left, that is part two to the right. So how do we set the easiest learning path here? Part one being the prerequisite to take part two. So you need to have finished part one, and then you have access to click start on the part two course. Of course, I'm going to go to the last course, to the second. So as an instructor, go to edit the course, and all you have to do is just look at the rules and path. And if you click on that set of settings, here is where learning path can be found. Now, it's really just a matter of picking here which course, one or maybe more than one, which course you would like to be the prerequisite of this one. So we have part two, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to type here, project management methodologies part one. So I select it, and now I can save it. So what happens here? First, somebody has to complete part one, and then they will be able to start doing part two. But what Danny also said is that you don't only have to just have one path towards this course. So you can have an alternative rule. You can have another path leading you to get that course. For example, I'm going to add an alternative rule. Here, again, I'm just going to type the word project here. But what I would like to find here is maybe planning a project. So I'm going to add planning here. There you go. And that is planning a project. So I can select it. Now, what have I done? Maybe somebody is on their first few months of employment and they are taking the onboarding training. So they need to finish project management methodologies part one, and then they get part two. But what if somebody just changes departments, right? So you have internal mobility, you have people coming, let's say, from support going to product management. So here, these people definitely have some basic knowledge of how to manage a project, but then they don't have the advanced, which is part two. So they don't need to come from part one because that's too simple for them. They get this course, planning a project. So you set the other course as a prerequisite, planning a project. So they have done that, they have finished that course, and then they get project management methodologies too, without the need to finish project management methodologies one. So as you see here, it's like a crossroad. You can go to the middle of the crossroad, but you can meet from different pathways, north, south, west, east, or anything else. So we have two different paths here. No matter where you come from, this course or that course, you then will be able to take this one. And of course, you can save it. And now you can have your two alternative learning paths set. Path number one, path number two, leading to that course. Now, an instructor definitely does the job, but how does the learner see that? If I go back to my admin permissions here, I'm going to show you a quick trick. I'm going to log in as a learner, and that's something you can do as well if you're an administrator with the ability to edit users. So I can go to my users, and I'll find, I think it's my friend A.B. Baker here. I can hover over the user. You see they're a learner. And when you hover, you see this little arrow here, which says login to account. So let's click on it. And now I have transformed to Abe Baker as a learner. So here we have part one. And if you click on it, nothing different than what you would expect, the course description, the trailer, and the content, right? If we go back, so this is part one. If we go back and now we look at part two, first of all, you can see here that it is restricted. So it's already warning you that you need to do something else before. And if I click on it, you see you cannot access the course until you complete the prerequisites. And you might wonder, okay, but where are the prerequisites? If you go a little bit further down, you see prerequisites, project management methodologies, or planning a project. Of course, if you have those courses assigned to you, you will be able to just go and complete them first, one of those, because it's either this one or that one. Or if you don't have them assigned to you and they're visible on the course catalog, of course, you can always, as a learner, go to the course catalog and then explore the related categories, find the courses. But I'm pretty sure that they will already be assigned to you, because that's always a good tip that we suggest. Assign to the person all of the courses they need to do, and let the learning path do the job of indicating the order that those courses will be given. Now, another thing as well, though, and this comes as a tip mainly from what we've seen people using as an indicator of what course goes first. Because I understand that's definitely the image here, part one and part two helps. Definitely the restricted tab here helps as well. But I'm going to show you another little trick here. If I sort those courses by name, right? And if I just go ahead and look at the list view, which might be easier to just showcase right here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more than I should. But you see here that next to the name of the course, you have two little codes, PMA01, PMA02. These are course code. And you see that obviously part one goes first, part two goes second. So what I'm going to show you now is, where do you find those? I'm going to leave my learner status. I'm going to transform back to an admin and switch to my instructor permissions. So here, if I go to part two, and if I give you my tab view, just to associate this with the image as well, if I go to my part two, go to edit the course, and again, on my edit settings course this time, you see here, there is the course code. So this is PM02. If I have another course that I want to appear afterwards, maybe project management methodologies part 3, if it comes out, then that will be on the other course, part 3, and everything will be set one under the other, due to the course code being the one that overrides any other list option. By default, if you don't have a course code, the course name is what puts the courses in alphabetical order. But the course code, if you use it, it overrides that and it does the job for you. So that's my little tip, just to be sure that there's not only just the learning path, but also additional features to help you navigate and make the view of your learners more intuitive as to which one to take first, which one to take second. But I think that there's another way you can use learning paths, Danny, right?
Yes, absolutely. So as Theo showed us, that's one way we can use learning paths on a course level. Let's maybe take this a bit further and explore learning paths on a group level. So for those of you using Talent LMS, I'm sure you will have come across groups many times. Groups is a way to assign multiple courses to multiple users in a very efficient way. And it can also be another way that we can establish learning pathways through the use of groups. I have a number of people that I speak to quite often, and I think this is a common problem as well, or not so much a problem, but a challenge to overcome. What do we do when we have new users joining the platform and they need to undertake very quickly welcome courses, for example? Now, normally what we can do here is, and I think we can all agree that welcome courses is a learning path. It's probably the first learning path that our users embark on when they join the platform. So a default group is a way of auto-assigning courses directly to users when they join the platform. So this can be your very first step to doing that. So establishing something like a default group with welcome courses, introductory courses, onboarding courses, anything like that that you feel that all of your users need to undertake in the platform. So this can be a great way to establish your very first learning path very quickly. And then, again, with the flexibility that you have in Talent LMS, you can combine default groups with notifications. And notifications are quite a powerful tool that you can use to essentially give the learners a choice in what they do next. So having completed the welcome courses, using notifications, you can then push learners in different directions towards learning paths that perhaps could be of interest to them based on their needs, based on their interests, based on the skills that they need to achieve. And that's something we can achieve through the use of group keys as well, letting learners join a group, giving them the choice to join a group and embark on a completely different set of courses that will again take them from A to B and help them to develop their skills. And through notifications, we can see, as Theo is going to show us very soon, that we can give learners different choices in different groups that they can join as well. So this is how we can take this a little bit further. After we've mapped everything out, the next stage could be, okay, how can I get groups of courses together, and how can I give learners this kind of choice that I was talking about earlier to decide which pathway to embark on? And I think Theo now can actually show us how we can do this practically in Talent LMS.
Exactly. And before we get into the tutorial part of this segment, there's a question which might be a good idea to bring forward now for Danny from Michaela. I hope I don't ruin your name. So Michaela is asking, what is the difference between giving learners the courses in groups versus learning paths? What is the benefit of using one or the other?
Okay, so as we saw before, using learning pathways, the strategies that Theo showed us, that's a good way to link courses together individually. Okay, so planning out, so let's have course A, then we're going to have course B, and then on completion of course B, we might have the option there for course C or D, for example. This is a way to sort of map out how your courses will run in a pathway. Now, with using groups, as I mentioned before, using a group allows you to assign multiple courses at the same time. So you're essentially giving a whole pathway with maybe 5, 6, 7 courses, for example, directly to the users. And when they're enrolled into the group, they're going to have access to the courses. So when we're talking about learning pathways on a course level, we're talking about perhaps the sequence and the structure. When we're talking about learning pathways in groups, this is a way to perhaps get all of your users enrolled into multiple courses at the same time, or multiple learning pathways at the same time. I hope that sort of helps to answer the question a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you, Danny, for that. And of course, if anybody has any follow-up question, definitely give us the heads up in the Q&A section. So let me show you exactly what Danny suggested here. Again, my trusty portal is up on the screen. And for that, definitely we need to be administrators. So now we're talking about not only just the course themselves, but groups too. And that is the place to start as an administrator. So there are 3 things that we need to showcase here. So I'm going to break this down into 3 parts. First, we're going to talk about the default groups. This is what Danny suggested as a starting point to assign a lot of courses to a lot of users just from the beginning. Then we're going to talk about group keys, which is a way that learners can self-enroll into the course of a group. And finally, we're going to talk about how we let people choose their own path based on the email communication we send automatically containing those details. So before we do anything, I'm going to tell you what a group is. So I'm going to create a brand new group here. So I'm going to add a group here and call it, let's say, new hire courses, just like that. A group is a way to mass assign courses to people easily and to put together curriculums, if you want, of courses bundled within groups. So new hire courses, just add the group as it is. And then you don't bother about the users now. We're going to go straight to the courses. And I'm going to add all of the essential courses that anybody who is new to this account should learn from day one. Of course, just for the sake of this example, I'm not going to bother you with searching. So I'm just adding a couple of courses in there. Now, those courses, if I want people to take them in a very specific order, you have to put learning paths with them. So if this should be the last course, you go in the course and you put the previous courses as prerequisites in the learning path, exactly as we showed before. Then, if you want this to be the one before that, you just do the same with the ones on top. But at the same time, one thing that I need to let you know is that when you add the course as a prerequisite to a learning path, of course, they will just take that course before and the one after. But if you put more than one courses within the prerequisites, then it doesn't matter in which order people are taking it. So you have to really map out how you want the order to be. So if that's going to be the first one, you need to put it only this one as a prerequisite to the second. If this should be the second, you have to put it only as a prerequisite to the third one. So you create a chain of courses if you want. So the chain of courses is created, the group is created, and then you put the course in the group. What do we do with that now? How do we mass assign those courses right from the get-go to the people? In the account settings here, if you go to the users, you have the default group. Now, I created the new hire courses group, right? Here it is. I can select it and save my settings. What happens is that anybody who joins the account from now on, any new members that I add in this account, they will be automatically enrolled into the group and automatically assigned to the courses of that default group. And of course, if you have put learning paths within those courses, definitely they will take course A before course B, before course C, before course D, and so on and so forth. So this is what Danny suggested, to start with the learning path based on groups. You have a mandatory group, and then you put those courses with their associated learning paths within. Then let's go to the second step of Danny's suggestion here. We create groups that have group keys that people can use to unlock those courses. What is a group key? If I go back to my groups here, and I go to the sales group, for instance, everybody has a sales team. I'm pretty sure in this call, everybody has to deal with sales, and we want to train them. So you create a group called sales. You go to the courses, of course, and you put the related courses inside. Of course, you can assign prerequisites to all of those courses if you want. But most importantly, again, we don't do anything with the users. You just go to the info and you set here a group key. You see sales training here. Of course, when you create a brand new group, the group key will be random, but doesn't matter because you can just delete it and write anything you want. So think of the group key as a password to get to the group. So of course, you update your group and you can do the same with others. So sales, support, it can be based on skills. For example, you can have soft skills, a group with a bundle of courses. You can have negotiating skills, upselling skill, complaint management skills. There's literally no rule. You can have groups based on whatever you want to put courses together as. So what we've done first, we've created the groups, we have put the courses in, and we have created the associated group keys. Now, if you're still with me, let's see how we distribute those group keys to people and show you once more the entire sequence. You can do it through notifications. So if I go to the events engine right here, you can create a brand new notification. There we have it. And you can select the event to be when somebody completes a course. So the event is what will trigger the email notification. So there's a lot of different options here, but what I'm going to do is on course completion. So they have completed the course. Now, which course though? That will go out to anybody who has completed any course. We don't want that. We want this to be the last course of the mandatory group that we set as the default. So if I go now to the filter, and if we pretend that this one would be the last course of that group, then the notification will be sent to people who complete the last course of the mandatory courses group, the one that we use as a default. The recipient here is the related user, which is the people who completed that course. And then you start creating your notification. So if I go and start with my subject line, that's the email that we create around. The subject line is congrats, new training to be unlocked. So we just give them a teaser of what they're going to see. And then we start building the content, the body of the email. So that's going to be hi. You can use the smart tags here to use the related user first name. So if Danny is the one receiving it, that's going to be hi, Danny. And then we can see after completing the course, which course, I'm going to put the course name here and it will populate this. More training is available based on the department you're working with. And now, how do we actually go ahead and give those courses? By listing out the group keys that people can choose from based on what department they belong. I'm going to pinch this and just expand it a bit. That's a nice trick as well. So I'm going to say sales. Remember the course code, the group key that we created, that was sales training. So sales training. If it is marketing, that will be marketing training. So you can list the group keys that you want people to choose from. Now, this is how you create a learning path that people can choose instead of just assigning to them. And of course, you can save the name of the notification. So that's going to be group key notification. For instance, nobody will see it, so that's not important. This is important, the subject line of the email. And of course, you can just create a notification. So this is a sequence that we are going to establish again. A new user, a brand new user, comes to your account. So you hired somebody new, you want to add them on your Talent LMS so that way they can start taking training. Which type of courses they're going to get first the moment you create their profile here? The ones that you put into the default group right here. So from day one, from just the first minute of them being on your portal, they will get the 5 courses you have added here. If you've set learning paths from one course to another, then they will take those new hire courses in the consecutive order that you have set them up for. And then they finish the last course of the new hire courses group. What do they do next? Do you have to do anything? No. The notification will go out, the one that we created, and then you will be able to just allow them to pick which group they belong based on the department. So they're going to use, for example, let's say customer support here. They're going to use this in their dashboard to log into the group. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to simulate the learner again. So let's go with Abe and log in. So Abe finished the mandatory courses. They got a notification for the last one, and then they say that, okay, I'm hired for support in this company, so I'm going to use the support group key. So join group right there as a learner. Just give the group key, join it, and you see successfully joined the group customer support training. And of course, you will see now more courses based on that specific group in your dashboard. I hope that helps. I know that that was quite a long thing to narrate, and I hope that you stayed with me. But what I would highly recommend at this point is to have a look at the webinar at your own time again if you would like to give it a try. And you can always just try what we suggested with Danny in your account, and then you will be able to see the benefits of the learning path. And with just a bit of work now, by setting the groups and by setting the learning path within the courses, you will be able to pretty much automate this process, and you won't have to touch your portal every now and then just to give course to people. They will be able to go pretty much on autopilot. Now, apart from that, we need some fun. So, Danny, what happens with gamification and learning paths? Do we need it? I say yes, but why?
I would say yes as well, Theo. And I think, again, that's something else. I think the key word really is engagement on Talent LMS. And how to keep learners engaged. We've seen today through giving them choice, through giving them different options they can take. Another thing we can actually add here is gamification, as Theo mentioned. So when we talk about gamification, I'm sure that most of you know what gamification means. For those of you who don't, simply when we're talking about gamification, we're talking about game-like elements that are introduced into a non-game environment. So normally when you think of an LMS system, you don't typically think of game-like elements being there. However, through the gamification feature, which you can find in your account and settings as an administrator on Talent LMS, it allows you to add these game-like elements to your portal to add that extra layer of incentive, that extra layer of fun, even that extra layer of competition as well for your users when they complete courses, for example, or for performing different actions on the portal. In your gamification sections, if you visited there before, you can find there are a number of different features there, which include points, levels, badges, for example. That can be tied to the completion of different courses, for example, and you can even go a step further there as well. I know we've talked about the events engine today and notifications. You can also combine that with automations as well, combining gamification points with with automations to again give learners this kind of extra incentive, perhaps even unlock courses based on their gamification points, based on their gamification level as well. So it's a different pathway that you can take. It's something that you can add in to your platform, attach it to your courses, attach it to your learning pathways for this extra level of incentive and fun for your users to keep them engaged on the portal and keep them completing courses. I think that's what we're all aiming for here, keeping our learners having their continued training, enjoying the training, and following the pathways that we've set for them.
Exactly. And actually, you gave a spoiler as well for the second feature that's we were about to showcase. So now we have gamification in the mix and automation. So let me show you exactly what Danny suggested. So first of all, where do we find the gamification settings that's Danny started talking about? Under account settings, gamification, again, obviously as an admin, the admin really rules the settings. Here, you have the option to switch gamification on or maybe off. This is a setting that accesses that affects your entire account. So I would suggest keeping it on so that way you can use it across your branches as well if your plan supports that. Now, gamification. We can give people points based on the actions that they do. So Dan's example, when you complete a course, you can get maybe 150 points. Maybe that's too generous. Maybe you can reduce it to 100. Of course, you can do your own math there. But the point is that you can give points to people, you can give badges to people, and you can use levels as well as a way to allow people to take courses that correspond to their level of expertise. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So you can give levels when people collect a certain amount of points, which means they've done a certain amount of training, or you can just give levels based on the amount of course that people complete. And of course, based on badges. The point is that you can save those settings and they can go in effect immediately. But how can you use levels as learning paths? Well, remember my setting, you upgrade the level, so you go one level forward after 5 completed courses. So I'm going to save my settings right there and go as an instructor. Now here, if I go to my settings on project methodologies part 1, right? I'm going to go and edit my course. What you see all the way down in the course settings here is the level. So I can select which level will be the minimum that the user should have in order to take that course. So I can select here, for example, that being level 3, and I can update my course. So this means that anybody who just started and they haven't completed the amount of courses that they need to acquire level 3, remember, one level per 5 courses, right? So here we would already be at 15 courses if my math is right. But the point is that they will not be new to training. They would already have done a couple of courses and update. This is a very good way to put a soft barrier to your courses so that way people can take them only when they have the appropriate background for that. And another thing as well in relation to gamification, I'm going to go back as an admin here. And that also brings into the conversation automations, the other features that Dana suggested. We can still use it with points, but we can also use it with a different way of using learning paths. So you can add an automation right here. And automation is a feature that is available to the premium and enterprise plans. So you can always have a look and see if your plan supports it. But it's something to remember because it would really save you a lot of time as a feature altogether, not only for what I'm going to tell you today, but generally, you can literally not even lift a finger to do certain actions if you use automations. So if I go here, for instance, in automations and just type the word points or even start typing, you see it just comes up. On course X completion, give Z points. So when somebody completes, I'm gonna do our familiar project management here. When somebody completes project management methodologies part 1, I'm gonna give them extra 100 points. So I'm going to call this project management methodology 01, for example. These points will be added on top of the points that they would earn based on my gamification settings. So remember, on course completion, give 100 points in my settings. And on top of that, when they complete that specific course, you give extra 100 points. So now how many points that person will get? 200 points. So add this automation. So this is something that you can use to create little surprises if you want for people who complete key courses in their training journey. But you don't want to give any spoilers before that. You just create this little automation. You just give them extra points. And of course, that's a boost in the experience. And of course, if you're training competitive people, I'm not gonna say sales, but I'm gonna say sales. But if you train competitive people, you see that this will spark the competition a bit, and this will increase the adoption of courses because what they're gonna do, they're gonna go back to the course catalog, pick more courses because now they found out that they're hidden points. So that's a good incentive as well. And so one final tip from me here, and then I'm gonna go straight to the Q&A. Another way to use automations here is if you create it as a way for introducing courses when it comes to learning paths. So I'm going to create, maybe I'm going to use this one and explain. So you don't see me clicking around. So there is this automation here. You can find in the list. On course completion, on course X completion, with a score between K and L, assign courses. So when somebody completes this course, 5 tips for securing a sale, for instance, with a score between 50 and 80, you assign that course. Is 50 a reason to fail the course? No. Is it the best score that somebody can achieve, which proves that they really answered correctly so they know what the course is about? No. So anybody who goes between 50 and 80, they get some reinforcing training before going to the next step. And of course, you can update the automation. At the same time, the same course, if you go to this one, if somebody completes this course, so I'm creating another automation with exact same prompt there. So if somebody completes that course with a score between 80 and 100, so now they're on the top percent of uh, the grades there, they already know what the supplementary course would give them. So they don't need it. They go straight to the compliance certificate or any other course that you would have there. So you cut a bit the middle steps that somebody who did not perform as great would take, and you kind of like fast track them if you want to this specific course. I hope that helps. And again, I hope that this gives you lots of ideas about how to use learning paths, because at the end of the day, it's definitely not just a matter of setting prerequisites. It's a matter of embedding learning paths in the training journey and associating them with different features as well. So question time. I can see the Q&A here being on fire, and I can see Irene as well, having answered so many questions very diligently. So thank you, Irene, for that. And I'm going to do a couple of questions and then pass the mic to Danny as well for a couple of others. Right. Erica is asking, if we already have course codes, can we change them? How does that impact the current courses? Yes, you can change them 100%. So if I go to any course, doesn't matter, and I can go and change them as an admin as well. If I go to any course, you see this is 0002. If I do it 0001, if I don't have another one this way, that will be the first. If I do, it will give me a warning that that would not be the case. But yes, you can change them. How they will be affected, of course, in the order that you see them. So as a learner or instructor, still doesn't matter. If you have them by name, the courses will be visible and rearranged based on the new course codes. And that's easier to see if you have them in the list view. So you see the course codes will be available here. And if those changes, the courses will be rearranged. Let's see another one as well. That would be from Jamie. What is the difference between a group and a branch? Jamie, I'm going to answer this very quickly, but I've kept your question right here. I've highlighted it, and I'm going to send you in my follow-up email specifically about webinars and resources that you can watch to identify those. We have a dedicated webinar about organizing your portal, which essentially is the difference between branches and groups. In a nutshell, branches are independent training environments that you can have. So I can select my branches and I can have Spanish branches in different languages. I can have branches for my customers, for my distributors. So whoever's in a branch can only access the contents they have in the branch and associate themselves with the people in that specific branch. Think about it as having multiple Talent LMS portals that are independent of each other, but of course controlled by your main account. The groups, and of course you can have groups within branches. I see somebody else ask this as well. The groups are ways that you can mass assign courses to people. So I can create a group and I can have my courses in that group. I can add how many courses I want or remove them. And then I can go to the users and I can add how many users I want in there and mass actions, enroll the users in the group courses. And now all of those people that I have added as group members, they will be enrolled into the course of the group. So the branches are independent portals. The groups are just a tool for you, administrators and instructors, to create bundles of courses and mass assign them to people. But definitely, Jamie, resources will come your way because I know that's just the tip of the iceberg there. Let's see another one as well. Okay, so Nicole is asking, what is the minimum plan for that? Are we talking automations or branches? If it's automations, that is premium and enterprise. If it is branches, that is basic, plus, and premium. And of course, enterprise. Let's see another one as well. That is from Maram. Is the automation Z point added with the general points and gamification page added to all courses? Yes, exactly. So if in your gamification settings right here, you have each course completion gives 100 points, and in your automation, you have another 100, that's going to be at the end 200. Let's see another one as well. Does changing course codes impact reporting in any way? Uh, I don't think it does. And I'm saying that with a pinch of salt, just because the course code is just a way to visualize the courses in the order that you need. So yes, here you can see the courses in alphabetical order, but not in the order of the course code, because you can see here that this is REM 01, this is 001, so they should go on top. So I'm not gonna say that's it really matters. The course code adjusts for the learners to see them in a correct order. The reports don't really get affected. Let's see a question from Evelyn. Can you share how other organizations, sounds like a Danny question there. Can you share how other organizations use gamification? Something you think it's particularly interesting or fun based on your visibility of what others do?
Yeah, sure. So I have a customer that recently, well, they've been using gamification for a long time, but they recently decided to actually make use of the automations that Theo introduced us today to completely revamp how their employees or their users taking courses, for example, are essentially earning points on these courses precisely for what we were talking about before, for this extra level of engagement, incentive to complete courses. So what they've done is for selected courses, they have added automations that award X amount of points upon completion. And these are generally for some of the more advanced courses or some of the optional courses. So in a way, they can see how their users are, or which of their users more are actually spending more time on the portal, engaging in extra training courses, for example. So they actually have used this example that Theo took us through. When I look at customers that are using gamification in general, what I see a lot of customers doing, a lot of people doing, is making use of course, the points and the levels for their users. As we saw again, getting to a certain level or a certain number of points can also help with unlocking extra things on the platform, like another course, for example. So this is generally what I've seen so far. And yeah, what we've seen already, customers making use of the automation. So pairing gamification with automations to kind of add this extra level of engagement for the users, rewarding certain users for completing different courses as well. And that's something I found quite interesting. And this particular customer, they created a load of automations for a number of different courses to make sure that their users were actively engaging in the courses that they really wanted to take. And I think that's something that quite a good lesson for us as well. If you want to sort of follow that route, you do have that available, and it does add that extra level of fun as well for the course completions.
Perfect. Thank you, Danny. And actually, that is things that people have implemented. So it's tested, it works, it runs, and it might be a good idea to test it out yourself as well. On the same topic, I'm going to answer a question from Erica. What is the learner experience when they get a badge or earn points? Is there a confetti in the app? Do they get a pop-up notification upon completion? How do they know or find out? Well, I'm gonna show you right now part of it, but I don't think that you want me to wait until I complete the course to show you exactly the ending screen. But yes, there is a pop-up window that shows you right at the bottom right here. There's a pop-up window that shows you how many points you got and has a little animation there. Now, how can you see though your badges, levels, and course points? You see I'm a learner, right? So I can click on my points here, or I can click on my points there, same thing. You can see my points. I'm at point 84. I'm on position 84 with 705 points. Not my proudest moment. But you see now we have number one, number two, number three, Jim, John, and Catherine with this amount of points. Levels. I can see my level as well. So I'm on level 17. Just sorry, I'm on positions. I wish I was on level 17. I'm on position 17 with level 3. So you see, I don't like reading the right side of the screen. But then you see again who shares the first position, and of course, who shares the second and who's on third. Same thing with badges. You can always just click here. I have 12 badges. See, I got it right. I'm on position number 16, and I can click and I can see my badges right there. Now, how you can collect points, badges, levels, there's always a cheat sheet if you want. You can click on your points and then you can click on how to collect points. And what you're going to find here, the tutorial. Every course completion gives you 100 points. Every login gives you 20 points. Certificate, discussion, whatever settings people have chosen, admins have chosen to give points for, that's what you see there. What you don't see, the secret points that you can give with automations. So that's why it's an element of surprise. And you won't see that here. There is another question as well, I think, and that would be from Jamie. Jamie, I can see that you have very good questions. There's quite a few of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a follow-up email for you, including the resource I promised before. So that way I can, answer your questions without just, doing it in a rapid way. I just want to make sure that you have all the resources. But on top of that as well, a couple of questions from Natasha. How do you create two different learning paths within the same branch? If I need to set two different groups within a branch, do I need to manually assign learners to groups? Well, that's a specific use case that's I'd like to be a bit more involved and again follow up with you, but I'm just going to give you just a few pointers. You can create different learning paths within the same branch, provided that you have added the courses within the branch. So if I go to the branches right there, let's say that we're preparing courses as a distributor, you can go to the courses and you can add the desired course in the branch. So I can always just go further down and I can add more courses in the branch. Now, how are you going to create two different learning paths within the same branch? If you go into the course, and again, if you go as an instructor to the course contents, the rules and path, remember, we have the alternatives. So I can have this one as a prerequisite. I can have another one. Okay, obviously not the same, right? So that's a misclick there. And I can even add another one as well. And of course, I can add another one as well. So now you can have three different learning paths within the same course that you have shared in the branch. Do you need to set to different groups within a branch? Do you need to manually assign learners to groups? You can do that if you want to. You can have, again, multiple groups within the same branches and multiple courses, multiple learners within the group. Everybody can belong everywhere. But the point is, what is the example that you would like to get there? What I would suggest here is to send us an email. And with that, I'm going to just show you how you can actually contact us. So just send us an email. And Natasha, please do giving us a bit more information about that use case so that way we can advise in a more personalized way. So you can send us an email at trainingteam@talentlms.com. This is our direct email address, and you can ask anything or enhance your inquiry with information. And you can visit our website so you can see as well more webinars. talentlms.com/webinars. And there you can see this recording. Of course, I'm gonna again follow up with you and send it to you as well, but you can see this one, future ones, and of course this is where you can see any upcoming webinars that you can register for. First of all, thank you, Irene, for being behind the scenes, and thank you, Danny, for sharing your advice here.
Very welcome. Very happy to be here. And yeah, thank you to everyone who participated as well. The engagement has been fantastic, and we hope to see you again at future Talent LMS webinars.
Exactly. And once more, thank you all for being here. There will be a survey coming to you after this webinar, so that way we can get your input about our sessions. And of course, this is what helps us create sessions that you would like to watch and participate. So it takes just a couple of seconds of your time, and it really means a lot to us. Thank you, everyone. Take care. And of course, happy training.